Imagine standing on a desolate mountainside where the air is so thin, your breath comes in gasps, and the wind sings through the stones like a voice from another time. The world below fades to a haze of cloud and shadow, and in front of you lies a small glacial lake, its surface glassy, greenish-blue, framed by sheer cliffs. Then the snow melts, and the horror beneath emerges. Hundreds of skeletons, skulls split and cracked, bones twisted in unnatural shapes, lie scattered around the water's edge as if frozen mid-flight, mid-scream, or mid-prayer. Some still bear remnants of flesh and hair. Some clutch wooden staffs or iron rings as though they had been pilgrims, warriors, or something else entirely. This is Roopkund Lake in the Indian Himalayas. Locals call it the Lake of Bones. For over 1,000 years it has been a place of fear, reverence, and fascination. Even the mountain winds whisper about it. And tonight we descend into its story, one that science, myth, and time have all tried to explain. I'm Lily, and this is the final video in our Chilloween series from Lily's Viking adventure. Bonk the like button, settle into the cold mist of the mountains, and prepare yourself for a true tale that proves sometimes the dead never leave their resting place, even when that resting place is a frozen lake high above the world. It began in 1942 during the height of World War II. A British forest ranger named H.K. Madwal was patrolling near the border of India and Nepal when he stumbled upon something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He found a lake, a crater of ice and rock, surrounded by hundreds of human skeletons. At first, British authorities suspected they were Japanese soldiers attempting to infiltrate India through the mountains. But that theory collapsed the moment researchers examined the bones. These skeletons were ancient, centuries old. When the snow melted, more bones appeared. Legs tangled with rib cages, skulls resting on the shore. The remains were so well preserved by the frigid temperatures that bits of skin and hair clung to some of the skulls, and scraps of clothing remained intact. It looked like a mass death. But from when? And how? The people who lived in the shadow of these mountains already knew the story. To them, the skeletons were not a mystery. They were a warning. According to the folklore of the Garhwal region, a powerful goddess named Nanda Devi, protector of the Himalayas, guards these peaks. Long ago, a group of pilgrims made the perilous journey to her sacred temple. Among them was a king, his wife, and many attendants. But somewhere along the trail, they angered the goddess. Some stories say they brought dancers into her holy land. Others say they defiled her temple by dancing and singing where silence was required. In her wrath, Nanda Devi summoned a storm of ice and stones from the sky. The pilgrims were struck down by massive hail, the size of iron balls, and their bodies littered the landscape around the lake. The goddess had preserved them there as a reminder to all who followed, that disrespecting the divine could mean death. For centuries, villagers avoided the lake. Shepherds would not graze near it. And when travelers tried, they returned whispering of strange echoes, footsteps in the night, voices calling from across the frozen water, and skeletal faces glimpsed beneath the ice. The mountain, it seemed, did not easily give up its dead. In the 1950s, and again in the 1960s, expeditions reached Roopkund. They found roughly 300 skeletons, along with weapons, rings, shoes, and fragments of bamboo. Evidence that these were not soldiers, but travelers. Some had heavy jewelry, suggesting people of status. Others carried nothing but walking sticks. There were men, women, even children among the dead. Carbon dating placed the remains around 850 CE, aligning eerily well with the ancient legend. But that only raised more questions. If they were pilgrims, why so many? Why all at once? Early theories included avalanche, epidemic, or ritual suicide. But none matched the evidence. The bones bore no defensive wounds, no cut marks, no sign of an attack, only massive fractures to the skulls and shoulders, all inflicted from above. Whatever killed them had rained down on them suddenly and mercilessly. The local story of a goddess and her deadly hailstorm no longer seemed like superstition. It looked almost like a literal description of what happened. For decades, scientists believed they'd solved it. A group of Indian pilgrims struck by a freak hailstorm. Tragic, but straightforward. Then came 2019. A new study led by geneticist Niraj Rai and published in Nature Communications rewrote the story entirely. The team sequenced the DNA of 38 skeletons and analyzed isotopes from their bones to determine their diets and origins. The results were astonishing. The skeletons did not belong to one group, or even one century. Some were indeed from India, dated around 800 to 900 CE, but others were far younger, from the 19th century, and came from as far away as Greece and Crete. These weren't just ancient pilgrims. They were people separated by nearly 1,000 years, all of whom met the same fate in the same place. The lake, it seemed, was not a one-time tragedy. It was a repeat site of death. The realization led researchers to re-examine Roopkund's role. For an era, Roopkund has been a pilgrimage route for the Nanda Devi Raj Jat Yatra, a sacred procession that takes place roughly every 12 years. Thousands of devotees trek through the mountains to honor the goddess. The journey is perilous, and weather in the region can change violently without warning. Perhaps over time, multiple groups met their end there. Some ancient, some medieval, some modern. But that explanation only deepens the unease, because the pattern suggests something persistent, almost intentional, as if the lake demands its due every few generations. Even the locals still leave offerings at a distance. They say the goddess doesn't want visitors, only witnesses. Mountaineers who've visited Roopkund in modern times describe an eerie silence that falls over the valley. The sound of wind bouncing off the cliffs produces strange echoes, almost like voices. Some climbers have reported hearing whispers near the water's edge when no one else was around. Others claim they've seen shadows moving beneath the ice, shaped like figures walking just below the surface. In 2004, a team of National Geographic filmmakers reported strange disturbances in their equipment when filming near the bones. Unexplained static in audio, cameras malfunctioning, batteries draining in minutes. Locals believe it's the restless energy of those who died suddenly, their spirits trapped in the place where heaven and earth meet. But what the hell happened to these people? At night, when the snow reflects moonlight across the bones, the lake glows faintly. It's said that's when the goddess walks her domain, making sure the boundaries between the living and the dead remain firmly in place. As strange as the legend sounds, the science of the hailstorm theory supports it in chilling detail. The blunt force trauma patterns on the skulls match injuries caused by solid ice projectiles roughly 7 to 9 centimeters wide. Hailstones large enough to crush bone on impact. At high altitude, where oxygen is thin and shelter is scarce, a sudden barrage like that would be inescapable. The travelers had nowhere to hide. Hail of that size is rare but not impossible. In 1888, a similar storm in Uttar Pradesh killed more than 230 people and 1,600 animals, all from massive chunks of ice falling from the sky. So it's not myth, it's meteorological nightmare. Even with science explaining how, the why still lingers in a fog of mystery. Why were Mediterranean travelers, people whose diet suggested fish and olive oil, wandering the Himalayas centuries after the first deaths? Why did they end up in the same place, with the same injuries? No record mentions such a journey. And yet, the bones prove they were there. Some researchers speculate the younger skeletons might be from colonial-era explorers, or traders following ancient paths, unaware of the lake's curse. Others think the goddess's legend spread far beyond India, drawing seekers from distant lands to test fate or seek divine visions. Whatever brought them there, the lake accepted them all equally. Roopkund stands as a rare point where religion, folklore, and forensics converge almost perfectly. A myth of divine punishment, a natural disaster recorded in bone, and a series of inexplicable deaths spanning time, memorialized, all centered around one small pool of water. It's worth considering that our ancestors sometimes understood the world's wrath better than we give them credit for. The goddess's iron hailstones weren't fantasy. They were history told in the language of fear. Today, the Indian government restricts travel to Roopkund. Tourism has damaged some of the remains, and climate change threatens to expose them to decay. The bones, once preserved for a millennium, are slowly vanishing. Scientists continue to extract DNA samples, hoping to identify lineages. But there's a growing sense that the lake doesn't want to be solved. Every few years, mountaineers report finding new bones, freshly revealed by melting ice. Bones that had somehow gone unnoticed, as if the mountain were still unearthing its secrets bit by bit. Some locals believe it's a sign that the goddess isn't finished yet, that every generation she reminds humanity of its fragility. And so the lake remains still, its mirror surface reflecting only the sky and the ghosts below. You can almost hear them, can't you? The crunch of snow under bare feet, the gasp of pilgrims caught in the storm, the sharp percussion of ice striking bone. And then, silence. 1,000 years later, the mountain still whispers the same refrain. Remember us. Places like Roopkund blur the line between faith and fact, myth and meteor. They remind us that the past is not buried. It's only sleeping beneath the ice, waiting for the right warmth to wake it. If you enjoyed this descent into ancient hauntings, don't forget to stab that like button and subscribe to Lily's Viking Adventure. Your watch time helps us reach our re-monetization goal of 4,000 hours. And every minute helps us keep these stories alive. Check the description below for our sources and for a link to our Viking Adventure Gifts shop, where you'll find over 2,300 unique historical and holiday gifts, each one helping to support our research and storytelling. Until next time, keep your torches burning bright and your faith in the warmth of the living. This has been Lily's Viking Adventure, the Skeleton Lake of Roopkund. Don't forget to check the description for sources and links to our store, Viking Adventure Gifts on Etsy. Stay curious, stay brave, and remember, some places never forget.